Hello students, this is Dr. Sujata Magdum, Assistant Professor in Zoology, KTHM College, Nashik. Today, I'll be dealing with biological chemistry for third year BSc students, and in that, I'll be talking about the carbohydrate classification in detail. In the previous lecture, we have seen the basics of carbohydrates and we have understood the nature of carbohydrate, its use in imparting energy for performing the different activities of life. Also, we have seen in the previous lecture. Now, let us go into the basic classification of carbohydrate. We can say that carbohydrate can be divided into two main groups, sugars and non-sugars. Sugars are called as saccharines and these are sweet to taste and are soluble in water, whereas non-sugars, they are tasteless, consisting of fibers and they are insoluble in water. So with this basic classification, now we move ahead to understand the chemistry of carbohydrates in detail. Depending on the number of carbohydrate unit, carbohydrates can be classified into three different forms, that is monosaccharides, oligosaccharides and polysaccharides. Mono, as the term suggests, defines single or you can say singular unit, indicating that monosaccharides are made up of one carbohydrate unit, that is monomer, and that happens to be glucose. Whereas disaccharides, which is the subunit or subclass of the monosaccharides, we can say, consisting of two monosaccharide units, trisaccharides consisting of three monosaccharide units. Likewise, when we talk about oligosaccharides, oligo refers to few, that means 2 to 10 monosaccharides. When they unite together, it gives rise to formation of oligosaccharides. In the same manner, the third group, that is polysaccharides, here we can say poly refers to many and saccharides are the sugar units, indicating that polysaccharides, they are composed of more than 10 monosaccharide units and its number can vary to 100 to thousands in nature. Polysaccharides, they form the tasteless fibrous component of carbohydrate. Now coming to the first part of classification, that is monosaccharides. As I mentioned, mono refers to single. Monosaccharides, they are consisting of one single glucose molecule or sugar molecule and therefore they are called as monosaccharides. Now, or in other words, we can say these monosaccharides upon hydrolysis cannot be further defined into the lowest grade or they cannot be hydrolyzed further. They are the simplest form of carbohydrate. These monosaccharides are further classified on the basis of number of carbon atom as trioses, tetroses, pentoses, hexoses and heptoses. Trioses, they contain 3 carbon atoms. Tetroses, they show presence of 4 carbon atom. Pentoses, they are composed of 5 carbon atom. Hexoses, they show presence of 6 carbon atom. Likewise, heptoses, it contains 7 carbon atom. Also, by observing the functional group, these trioses and tetroses, they can be further classified as aldoses and ketoses. Aldoses are the monosaccharide which contain the functional group as an aldehyde, whereas if the functional group happens to be a ketone, then the monosaccharide will be called as ketoses. For example, aldoses, the glyceraldehyde is the simplest form of monosaccharide unit which contain 3 carbon atom. Hence, we can say it is an example of trioses. Likewise, the ketoses is dihydroxyacetone which is composed of 3 carbon atom and is the ketone. It contains the ketone as the functional group. The example of tetroses is erythrose, whereas the example of ketoses is erythrulose. Example of pentoses is ribose and ribulose. Example for hexoses is glucose and fructose. An example of heptoses is pseudoheptulose. It doesn't have any aldehyde group. Now here one thing you need to remember when you are understanding the nomenclature for aldoses and ketoses, when you are naming the word with OSE, it indicates an example of aldoses. Whereas in case of ketoses, the end words are LOSE except for dihydroxyacetone. So this way you can remember for aldoses as well as ketoses, right? Now in nature you can say that hexoses and pentoses, they are more commonly seen and are of prime importance. Now let us see the details of monosaccharides again. These monosaccharide unit is consisting of the simplest sugar molecule, that is glucose, which is composed of one single unit. Therefore, it forms the monomer. These monomers always are seen as the reducing sugar because their functional group, they are seen open for the reaction and they can bring about the interaction with the other reactants. Fructose and galactose are also example of monosaccharides other than glucose, and all of them, they have the same chemical formula but structurally they are different. Now let us see in the detail the structure of glucose. Now here you can see the chemical formula of the glucose is C6H12O6, and here you can see the ring form of glucose. So if I try to number, here it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and here becomes the 6th. So 6 carbon units are present. Likewise, there is presence of hydrogens which are 12 in number and oxygen, they are 6 in number, right? Now in each carbon unit, it has one hydrogen and another OH group. Now if you count here, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 carbon atoms, and if you count the hydrogen, it happens to be 12 in number and there are 6 oxygens which are seen present into the glucose. That gives rise to the chemical formula as C6H12O6. Further, this structure is the linear form of or you can say the chain form of glucose. Fructose is commonly called as the fruit sugar and it also contains 6 carbon atoms, as I mentioned in the previous slide, that both of all the three, that is glucose, fructose and galactose, chemical formula is same, only there is variation seen with reference to the structure. In case of fructose, you can see presence of 2 CH2OH at opposite end into the linear form, whereas in case and it contains a ketone group, whereas in case of galactose, which happens to be present in the dairy products, it contains an aldehyde group. So it is an example of aldoses. Now, the cyclic monomers, which are also called as glycosides, they differ from each other in the configuration at carbon 1. Here you can see the ring structure of the glucose, which are been numbered in the red color. So here clearly you can see presence of 6 carbon atoms into the ring and there is distribution of OH likewise surrounding to the carbon atom. Now if C1 is an aldoses, then you can see that the anomeric carbon is seen present at carbon number 1. In the configuration at C2, that is this one, if it shows presence of a ketone, then it will be called as a ketosis. The carbon in the anomer is called as the anomeric carbon, and here if the carbon is seen present showing a ketone group at carbon number 2, then we call it as a ketosis. This gives rise to anomeric form. Already in the previous lecture, I have talked about the alpha and beta glucose. Let us once again revise. In case of alpha, you can see presence of OH group in the inferior position to that of the anomeric carbon. Now here, with reference to anomeric carbon, I can describe the position of OH group. In the same way, for beta glucose, we can say that the carbon is showing, the OH, that is the hydroxyl group, is seen superior in position to the carbon atom. The same holds true for the fructose also. Here you can see carbon number 2 happens to be the anomeric carbon, and here the position of OH, it plays a vital role in defining whether it is alpha or beta type of fructose. In case of alpha, again we can say fructose will have inferior OH group as compared to the anomeric carbon, and if the OH, that is the hydroxyl group, is superior in position to that of the anomeric carbon, then we call it as the beta fructose. Now let us talk about oligosaccharides. As I mentioned, if I split this term into two, oligo refers to few, saccharides refers to sugar unit. So few means how many. So for that we can say that the number varies, or it lies between 2 to 10. So indicating that oligosaccharides, they are made up of 2 to 10 monomeric units. General formula is CnH2O n-1, where n is 2 or more than 2 but less than 10. Now these are the symbolic representation of the monosaccharide units. So monosaccharide units could be glucose, galactose or fructose, and onto the lower side the structure is been given. So you need to practice the structure of these basic monosaccharide units so that you will be able to write the structures for oligosaccharides, right? So take it as an assignment and write the structure of glucose, galactose and fructose 5 times each and post it onto the Google Classroom. Now these oligosaccharides, when we say they are composed of 2 to 10 monomeric unit, they should be linked together, and that linkage is by means of the glycosidic linkage. Now here you can see there are two monosaccharide units which are linked together or joined together with the help of glycosidic linkage. For example, if I talk about sucrose, which is the cane sugar and is commonly also seen into the beet, we can say that this table sugar is commonly seen in our house and is composed of a single unit as glucose, which is seen attached to the fruit sugar, that is fructose. So in the previous slide, where in pictorial representation I have given about the fructose as well as glucose. So here is the pictorial representation of the sucrose consisting of the glucose and the fructose unit. In the same manner, for lactose, lactose is composed of galactose and glucose. That means one molecule of galactose, when it is linked to one molecule of glucose through the glycosidic linkage, it gives rise to lactose. Lactose is commonly called as milk sugar, and here the galactose which is seen in the reaction, or you can say in the formulation, is of beta type, which is joined to alpha glucose. Therefore, the linkage happens to be beta 1,4 linkage. Now, how it is formed, that I will be discussing in few seconds. The beta lactose is sweeter and is more stable than the ordinary alpha lactose. The third example of oligosaccharide is the maltose, and this maltose again is a disaccharide which is made up of two glucose units. So this happens to be the pictorial representation of the maltose, commonly called as the malt sugar, and is seen commonly present into germinating cereals or grains, and is the product of breakdown of starch. Now here you can see the two glucose units, they are linked together by means of a glycosidic linkage, that is 1,4 glycosidic linkage. Now within cells, many oligosaccharides are formed by 3 or more units and do not find themselves as free molecule, but they are linked to one another, maybe to the sugar units or sometimes even with the proteins and the lipids, and thus they form the glycoconjugates. Disaccharides is a compound which is written with its non-reducing end to the left side and reducing end to the right side. Now, depending on that, we can classify them as non-glycosidic, non-reducing and reducing. Non-reducing are glycoglycyl glycosides, and reducing is glycoglycyl aldoses or glycoglycyl ketosis. Again, glycoglycyl glycosides, they are further classified as trehalose and sucrose, where the C1 links with C1, whereas in case of sucrose, C1 is seen linked with the C2. Now these details are not needed. You can just remember about the non-reducing type of disaccharides and reducing type of disaccharides. Now let us talk about the glycosidic linkages or glycosidic bond. When we are talking about glycosidic bond, one thing you need to mention is, or you need to remember is, these are always seen associated with the carbohydrates. That means the monomers which are present into carbohydrate, they are linked to one another by means of glycosidic linkage. Now here it is very interesting to observe that the hydroxyl group of one sugar is always linked with the hydroxyl of the another sugar, which leads to formation of the glycosidic linkage. And thus when this is the situation, and if there is splitting or hydrolysis seen occurred, it results into formation of water and there is breaking of glycosidic linkage. Thus, glycosidic linkage helps in formation of disaccharides, oligosaccharides and polysaccharides from the rings of monomeric forms or monosaccharide units. Now here you can very well understand that there are two glucose units. Obviously, when two glucose units are linked together, it will give rise to maltose. So here the numbers you can see, they are written in red color. So at carbon 1, the OH will participate in linking with the OH of carbon 4 of the second glucose unit, which results into formation of link between first carbon of first glucose and fourth carbon of second glucose, indicating the linkage as 1,4 glycosidic linkage. Here also in case of maltose, again this is maltose wherein you can see, because both OH of the glucose, they are inferior in position to the anomeric carbon. Now which is anomeric carbon? That is carbon number 1 in both glucose units. Therefore, the linkage is called as alpha-1,4 glycosidic linkage. Say for example, into the second example in case of lactose, here you can see that there is beta-1,4 glycosidic linkage. Why did I say beta? Because if you see the first glucose unit, it has the OH which is superior in position to the anomeric carbon or carbon number 1, and hence this glucose will be called as the beta glucose, which is getting linked to an alpha glucose. Why alpha glucose? Again look at carbon number 1. The position of OH is inferior or it is onto the lower side. Hence this is an alpha glucose. So when beta glucose links with alpha glucose, then it gives rise to formation of beta-1,4 glycosidic linkage. Correct? Likewise, if the linkage is between carbon 1 and carbon 6, then the glycosidic linkage will be called as 1,6 glycosidic linkage. Right? Now here you can see the example is of sucrose, which is made up of the glucose, that is alpha glucose, and beta fructose. So the linkage is alpha 1 beta 2 glycosidic linkage. Now what are trisaccharides? Tri refers to 3, saccharides refers to sugar units. That means it contains 3 monomers. For example, here we can take an example of raffinose. Here you can see there are 3 monomeric units which are linked by means of glycosidic linkage. The first glycosidic linkage is 1,4 glycosidic linkage, and the second glycosidic linkage is 1,6 glycosidic linkage, right? In the same way, tetrasaccharides, they contain 4 monomeric units which are linked with glycosidic linkages. Example is stretchose and scaradose. Pentasaccharides, the example is verbacose, and it contains 5 monomers which are linked with glycosidic linkage. Polysaccharides, as the name suggests, poly refers to many, indicating that more than 10 monosaccharides, when they are linked together by means of glycosidic linkage, then it gives rise to polysaccharides. When we are talking about polysaccharides or oligosaccharides, the number of monomeric units which are present into the linear chain minus 1 will give the number of glycosidic linkage. For example, here if I say that there is a polysaccharide which is composed of 10 monomeric unit, obviously in between these 10 monomeric unit there should be presence of 9 glycosidic linkage, which will bring about the formation of the polysaccharides. These polysaccharides, when they are hydrolyzed or reduced, it gives rise to oligosaccharides, and further digestion will lead to formation of monosaccharides. The polysaccharides can contain more than 10 monosaccharides, and it can reach nearly thousands in number. If the monosaccharides, they are of same type into the polysaccharides, then the polysaccharide will be named or defined as homopolysaccharide. And if the polysaccharides, they show different types of monosaccharides linked by means of glycosidic linkage, then they are called as heteropolysaccharides. Now let us talk about homopolysaccharide. There are 3 best examples to understand. The first one is starch, cellulose, and glycogen. So what is common in all these? They are examples of homopolysaccharides, indicating that they show presence of same monomeric unit within their structure, and therefore they are the examples of homopolysaccharides. Now let us see in detail the structure of starch. Starch is made up of amylose and amylopectin. Amylose is also called as alpha amylose, whereas amylopectin is called as beta amylose or isoamylose. The amount of amylose present in starch is 15 to 20%, and its molecular weight is 10,000 to 50,000 in nature. Therefore, we can say it is composed of 300 to 500 units. Moreover, amylopectin, it is seen in large volume as compared to amylose, and it is composed of 80 to 85% in the starch. Its molecular weight ranges between 50,000 to 1 lakh. The number of glucose units which are seen present into amylopectin is more than 300 and less than 550. Both amylose and amylopectin, which forms the component of starch, has given a branched nature to the starch. Now here you can see the structure of amylose, where you can see presence of alpha 1,4 glycosidic linkage, whereas in case of amylopectin, which is branched, here it shows 1,4 glycosidic linkage into the linear form, and along with that it also shows presence of 1,6 glycosidic linkage, and this 1,6 glycosidic linkage is the branch point leading to giving a branched nature to the starch molecule. The same is the structure for the cellulose. Now let us have the comparison between the starch and the cellulose. Both are seen present into the plant product. Starch is seen as the storage polysaccharide, whereas cellulose is the structural polysaccharide. Both of them, they are composed of glucose unit. The difference is, in case of starch, it is made up of alpha glucose, whereas cellulose is composed of beta glucose. So what makes me say alpha and beta? By observing the position of OH group at the anomeric carbon. In case of alpha glucose at anomeric carbon, if OH is seen into the inferior position or to the lower position, then we call it as an alpha glucose. Whereas if the OH is seen superior to the anomeric carbon, we call it as the beta glucose. So beta glucose is an common feature seen in cellulose, whereas alpha glucose is commonly seen into the starch. Now here, as we have seen in the previous slide, there is presence of branching seen into the starch molecule, which has given rise to amylopectin, and there is linear arrangement of glucose molecule which gives rise to amylose. So both amylose and amylopectin has given rise to formation of starch. Here most of the linkages or all the linkages which are seen is 1,4 alpha glycosidic linkage in case of starch, and there is 1,6 glycosidic linkage seen at the branching point. So this is the branching point. Here also you can see the branching point. This is also the branching. Wherever you can see the branches, there it is presence of 1,6 glycosidic linkage. And this branching has resulted into formation of a amylopectin, whereas the main branch or the middle one, which forms the prime linear arrangement of glucose, this forms the amylose, right? In case of cellulose, as I mentioned, that here there is presence of beta glucose, so there is alternate 1,4 glycosidic linkage and 1,4 glycosidic linkage is commonly observed into the cellulose. The difference is, here you can see there is linear arrangement of the glucose unit seen upon one another in the form of a pile, and that is why this happens to be fiber-like in nature, and therefore it forms the structural component of the plant, whereas the storage molecule is seen into the branched form. Heteropolysaccharides, different types of monosaccharide unit, when they are linked together by means of glycosidic linkage, it gives rise to heteropolysaccharide. The best example is mucopolysaccharides, and mucopolysaccharides include glycosamylglycans that contain galactose and amine sugar, and this is more commonly seen into the wall of bacteria. Agar is also an example of heteropolysaccharide which contain various sugars like glucose and galactose. Now in the next class we'll be discussing the properties of the carbohydrate, that is the epimerization, resimerization, mutarotation and so on. Till then, thank you.